Good morning. My name is Andriy Zelenko, and some of you may know me, or I know some of you from my past work at Porto1 about the open source VoIP telephony. But here I am to talk on a bit different topic. I'm here to talk about how do we create those front-end applications which will be connected to our VoIP systems. And why I'm here, because most of the people in the audience, they are just the back-end people. Well, guess what? When they announce a conference for front-end developers for telecommunications, nobody shows up. Those guys, they go to Web 4.0 or some other more cool topics. So it's our best hope to have something which is reliable and which will allow to deliver a project on time. Because it doesn't matter if our backend part on OpenSips, Kamaio, FreeSwitch, or whatever, it works perfectly. But if the end user cannot use the service, then it's going to be a failure. And there are a variety of applications where we may need calling, like a website which does reading for tarot cards or horoscopes, announcements like Craigslist, and in Europe there are versions like OLX or something similar, or websites of telcos. They all need the user to be able to call easily and to be able to communicate. And seems to be easy enough. Well, we install our favorite VoIP switch, and then these front-end guys, they come in and they do the development. I'm going to talk about why it is not so easy. I'm going to be talking based on the personal experience we have at WebTrit for over 2 years now. I will be talking about the problems for which I know some kind of workable solution. And if you know about other challenges, or if you had projects where you had to help solve, or you solve yourself the problems, the challenges about the front end, how to make this beautiful app, how to make this calling widget appear in the website, and just as previous speaker was showing, like how to make it get push notifications so it actually will receive a call when it's there. So please share it. I would like it very much, and I hope to include it in my next presentation. So the typical story of service provider or somebody who creates a new service reading horoscope is, okay, we need voice and video calling. Well, let's grab Janus from Lorenzo. Let's grab OpenSips. Yum install, done, it's running. And now the front-end people come in and they say, well, yeah, it's like easy enough, like give us a few weeks and it will be done. And then a few months passes and still something's not working. And in WebTrit, we went more or less the same way. And sometimes they have customers who say, well, it couldn't be so difficult. Say, well, come on, I can show you our sprint and ClickUp. And you can see for yourself what is happening, because it's not as easy as it seems. How can, why is it happening, and what are the main challenges? Well, one of the obvious ones, we have WebRTC, which is a great thing, and again, here in the rest of my presentation, I'll be talking about developing voice applications which use WebRTC for media transport. Because if you are a hardcore person, and if you are now in 2024, you want to create like a web application which does the direct dealing of media streams and everything, I admire your courage, but it's not the most productive usage of the development resources. But even with WebRTC, how do we do signaling? How do we know that calls should be connected or disconnected? Who implements that logic? And we have this bazaar, in the sense of like Bazaar and Cathedral, the famous book about the open source versus enterprise. And yes, this variety of choices is good, but it's not good for the developers because they have no idea what to choose. Do they go with one protocol or another? And all of them are fairly complex. And the more they get closer, the closer they try to emulate the real VoIP, the more complex it is for an average front-end developer to understand. And also I have experience in multiple projects when you have a fairly smart person, they know their TypeScript, they know their mobile development, but they have no idea what is like codecs and media streams and why it doesn't work. And the worst part, they don't want to learn it because they kind of understand it's going to be useless on their next project. They would rather spend their time learning something else or learning how to make ChatGPT do their work and still keep a salary. So this question has to be addressed because we need to do something with the signaling and make sure it's easy to implement in the front end. And of course, the obvious choice is, well, there are nice platforms like Daily, and they seem to have the platform and APIs and everything. Why don't we go there? They may even offer some widgets which can be used in the application. And if somebody is developing right now pure application which only needs user-to-user for mobile app, there's nothing wrong with using services like that. It's probably going to be easier. However, since we are all here and we are talking about some kind of involvement in the traditional VoIP telephony, it means there is a system which is OpenSips or something else. There's a cloud PBX, and we still need to process calls there. And this beautiful world of this new age CPaaS systems, they do have troubles connecting there. And I can understand this because if I were a person creating Twilio video service or something similar, last year or a few years ago, I would say, screw that voice over IP, it's going to be dead in a few years anyway. I'll design my service with beautiful future with cloud native and microservices and everything. So it is difficult, and that's maybe one of the reasons why some of the vendors were dropping support for this. And I know people who started developing their application with Twilio video. They had a nasty surprise last year when Twilio said, well, no, we don't want to do it anymore, and you figure out and you switch to something else. So there's always that possibility. If you go all in on some vendor, and if it's a black box, hosted by them, the cloud, well, one day they will say, sorry, you have to change. And then it's a big problem because, again, you are tied to their APIs, you're tied to their widgets, and it's going to be a lot of factor. And of course, the biggest problem we were all facing now is where to get enough good engineers. And even now with AI and all the things, it's not getting any better. Because yes, it is now easier to do some simple tasks. But for somebody who really knows how it should be done and how to construct it, these people are expensive. It's not easy to find them. It's not easy to keep them. So how to speed the things up? And traditional history of people doing some kind of mobile application development is, well, they have one team for iOS, one team for Android. So it means double the amount of resources, double the amount of QA, and everything. So is there a way to simplify that? And also, if somebody says, well, they have a nice mobile application, but how about web application? How about doing integration with MS Teams? Again, how to avoid hiring even more and more developers, because with most of people, I'm talking about either startups, I'm talking about telecom providers, they would not have resources for that. And right now, when people start building the application, no matter which system they choose, usually the thing is they are given some sort of API, they're given some sort of widgets, and now you have to put it together. And this kind of a story of me when I need to do some home construction projects. So when I have an idea of this beautiful tree house for my kids, I go to Home Depot, and they have all the right tools. They have all the right materials. The problem is I don't know which ones I should choose for this particular one. And if I'm going to miss something, or if I'm actually going to get something which I don't need and spend money on this. And that only comes with experience. And as we discussed in the previous slide, there's not that many people who already have a lot of experience building these front-end applications for communication, so it's probably going to be somebody who is doing it for the first time. I mean, there's going to be delays, there's going to be bad architectural decisions. Is there a way to jump across that problematic area and having something which we can use readily? Well, that's how WebTrit came into place. It came from a real project when we tried to develop this communication solution for service which helped people to train for negotiations. And this was right before COVID, and the project was going to fail because people said, well, like, nobody is going to do real negotiation via Zoom. We're here now, and nobody has a problem with it negotiating $1 million contracts over Zoom, so it's still there. So the idea is, first of all, we want it to be open source. The front-end part, it has to be open source, because right now, the situation is there are a few popular dialer applications, the Acrobits or Counterpath, which got acquired by service operators. And of course, there's a concern with the other solutions which are there. Okay, what's going to happen? And if somebody acquired the company, how we continue our development? So it has to be open source, meaning you have peace of mind and you can do your adjustments. So if you have an application, which in your particular case, maybe it's not just calling, but maybe it has to be integrated with CRM, or maybe it's a specific type of calls which are scheduled from your field management system. It's easy to do. And then the important thing, it has to be agnostic in terms of VoIP systems. So it should be able to connect to any VoIP system which is out there for regular protocols. So if somebody still has some VoIP system installed 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years ago, it should still work with it. It should not require a massive upgrade. And we're not going to give just nails and planks and hammers and drills and then you figure out which ones you need. Now, it should be IKEA style. So it's something which it's already a functional application, which doesn't take saying any knowledge of would be wrong, but it takes minimum amount of knowledge about the development to have it working. And then you can only focus on the things which really make sense and which really need to be added to your application. And we use Flutter and Dart, so you can have a single team develop an application. Again, like a small footnote. Of course, there always would be some differences between when you need to integration with a specific mobile OS. Yes, you may need some advice or consulting from people who are familiar how to do certain things in Android or iOS, but these are going to be minimal. And this is a fundamental difference from trying to maintain 2 separate development teams. So how does it work? WebTrit, it has a cloud backend, which solves a lot of challenges. For instance, push notifications. So instead of thinking and doing all the things which Conrad explained, and it's possible to do this, but you can just skip all of the thing and let the backend take care of it automatically. It has Janus as one of the components which handles the conversion, so you can rely on the mid-echo experience and past deployment, so that part is going to be stable, it's going to be working fine. And it takes care about all the boring things, about user authentication, and offers very simple API to the front end, like get user information, initiate call, drop call. And then it allows, through API gateway, it allows to connect to virtually any system which is out there. We had a few deployments. Well, we started, of course, with connecting to Porto Switch because the Porto one, that's our main customer base uses it. But in the last year, we had multiple projects when people were able to add those API adapters on themselves. It's a microservice with about, 10 API endpoints. Like how to validate user login, how to get contacts, how to get list of CDRs, and this is it. So if you have a set of PBX boxes, if you have your own customer management database connected to OpenSips, it's very easy to do this. And the connectors which are already there, we publish them also on GitHub, so you can use them as an example. Or we hope there's going to be more independent projects who are using that. And the front-end code for the application is on the GitHub, so you can fork, you can do things you want. And we also have, as an example, we have a web, like Vue.js application, also on the GitHub. And some people, they take it as is and just customize the colors and look and feel. But we've seen several successful implementations when they take the idea as an example and then instead they create widgets for the specific CRM or web application. So on your project, what would it take for you to start using it? As I said, the connection to VoIP system is going to be pure SIP, so I don't expect any troubles there. We already have been working with multiple vendors, and the connection which would take care of user authentication, you can write your own, but also for your convenience on GitHub we have a Python Fast API project which implements those endpoints, has a few examples for instance, connecting to FreePBX via API, connecting to database of Firestore for extracting pre-configured, pre-stored user data. So it can be anything. For Cameo World in 2023, as just demo thing, within a few hours, I did the connector to DynamoDB. It's whatever the system is, it's mostly about doing the data mapping because you know better in which attributes you have which data available. And if you choose not to use the front-end application which we provide as a jumpstart, well, you can still use the API. So if there's an application and we see inquiries from people, they will have self-care app for their service, and they just need to add calling. Well, it's easy. They just need the WebRTC, which fortunately now is a part of all the standard libraries on mobile operating systems, and they just need a few commands to initiate calls. And this is way easier than trying to go the hard route and trying to do it from scratch. So I'm now relying on you, the backend people, to pass this on. So next time you have project meeting and discussing how to build the whole service, how to build the application. So you can check out the source code from GitHub. Yeah, you can also go to WebTrit.com. We have an online sign up and you can just log in and do the testing. You can build your own application locally. We also have this layout designer with just marketing people. They love to have this, specific colors and color scheme. They can play with it. So again, you don't have to do this. They'll customize and it will be just applied automatically. Probably the hardest engineering task, which still should take maybe a day or two, is to create an API adapter to your system. And we had customers implementing it independently with minimum consulting from our side, so I'm fairly certain it is not that difficult and it's possible to do. And of course, most importantly, I want the people who will start their own development to join and contribute back. Because the idea is for this front-end part, we want it to grow as an open source project with contributions and bug fixes and improvements. So if somebody will decide to add a screen which works with Web 3.0 identity, right? Well, if they contribute back, then it will appear in all other applications and we don't have to worry about this. So ideally, we want to have this community when the front end moves faster and much faster compared to developed by just a limited team and having this closed source. And also I can speak from my experience at Porto, working with telecom operators for the last 20 years. I've seen multiple projects of companies saying, oh, we're going to develop this custom app. And I think only one or two of them actually was successful when they were able to deliver that application. And of course, this was way, way later than it was anticipated. It was way over the initial budget. And that's why there's just a handful of success cases. So we can make the world of communicating apps easier and filled with better services. And right now, it's all on the GitHub. So bug fixes and contributions, adapters for new systems, and also if you develop an adapter, you can keep it to yourself. But I'm asking politely to do pull request and to send it to us so we can publish a library. And this way, when somebody we don't have an OpenSips adapter by default because there's no default way to store the user database. But if people will see, oh, okay, there's OpenSips adapter A, B, and C, there's a high chance they will adopt it, they will start using it, they will contribute, and this way we have this community which makes application developer go faster. And I see as a way of moving forward, not actually trying to create maybe even applications for mobile, but put integrations into CRMs or any existing web applications. And again, this is perfect here because it's a minimum, it's a very basic API, meaning you can save time with your developers, or you can use a third party we had actually a project recently with somebody who were familiar with HubSpot development, but had no idea about our specifics. Well, they were able to adjust the created calling widgets in just a few weeks. So I hope to see your success cases in a short time. If you have any questions, I'm here. I'm happy to talk about that. And if you have also, if you know there were problems in general for developing this front-end part, if you have a chance to talk to your local government representative, vote in the elections, and support the activities to help Ukraine, help to end this war. And I hope next time we meet, it's going to be peace in Ukraine, and Yuri and all of you can all have a beer together. Thank you very much.